I said last month that the Toronto real estate numbers for June was going to show a lot of things when it comes to the future of the Toronto real estate market. That's exactly what we're talking about in this video, and they're big. Toronto Real Estate by the Numbers is a video series I do every single month that talks about the trends that we're seeing in Toronto real estate when it comes to different property types, different listings, different sold numbers. We go through those trends and break it down for a first-time buyer. My name is Gabriela Batista from Homes into Reality. I do this every single week, post weekly content about being a first-time buyer in the Toronto real estate market. So I'm excited to get into these numbers. If you want to book a call with me, all of my information is below: my phone number, my email, and my link to book a calendar call with me. Happy to do so. Let's get into the content. Now, what we do every single month is we break down the median price point of different property types. And the reason why we do median is just because we want to make sure we're not skewed by the average. The average price point tends to be a little bit higher because it considers luxury homes, which are way above the typical price point. So the median is a more realistic number for a first-time buyer in Toronto. Over here, we're looking at a detached home for $1.406 million. We're looking at a semi-detached home for $1.286 million. For a freehold townhouse, we're looking at $1.175 million. For a condo townhouse, we're looking at $837,000. And for a condo apartment, we're looking at $680,000. Now tell me, what do these numbers mean? Are they up? Are they down? What's going on with the trend? And the only way we can look at those trend numbers is looking at the month over month and the year over year numbers. We're going to start with the year over year changes for prices, and that is from June of 2022 to June of 2023, which was last month's numbers. We are up for detached homes 2.25%. For semi-detached homes, we're up 7.2%. For freehold towns, we're down 4.82%. For condo townhouses, we're up 0.24%. And for condo apartments, we're down 1.45%. For some good context, if we look at the stats or the trends lines from last year, if we look at the peak of a market in February and March, we really started to see some declines in 2022 from April all the way to the end of the summer. So last year, we were already kind of midway through the major declines in prices. So when you see that year over year prices are up, that's also considering that prices were dropping much further over several months as well. Further to that, we also saw some increases earlier in the year from about February all the way to about May, where we saw prices slowly go up, which makes it, in some cases, make sense why year over year numbers are a little bit higher than they were last year. Like I mentioned, prices went up in the past few months, but what happened from May to June? And this is where that big change happened, where last month I was saying, we don't know what's really going to happen with prices based off of inventory and listings. But I can tell you where the prices are. The median price point from May of 2023 to June of 2023, we are down 6.89% for detached homes. For semi-detached homes, we're down 1.49%. For freehold townhouses, we're down 6.75%. For condo townhouses, we're down 2.56%. And for condo apartments, we're down 0.73%. Now, this is the first month that we've really seen any major declines in prices month over month. May at this point being our peak in prices, and now we're seeing some corrections. And a lot of the times, if we look over a 2-month span, we're about the same as that huge increase we saw last month compared to now. We're about the same. With that being said, it's interesting. This is showing that there has been a little bit of a shift in the market. Prices have not been increasing. There have been some declines in prices. It's just interesting to see at what extent. Your more volatile properties, like your freehold properties, are down a little bit more than, say, your condo apartments. And that makes sense even if you compare it to last year, where your freehold properties, they went up very quickly. They also came down very quickly versus, say, a condo apartment has been much more steady as months went on, even during their peaks in the markets and their downs of their markets. Let's look at a major reason why prices have been changing right now. And if we look at new listings and active listings, it tells us a little bit of that story. If you look year over year, numbers are down. New listings are down 3.32%, while your active listings are down 12.23%. The year over year numbers don't make a huge difference right now, just because when we think of prices starting to go down, we want to look a little bit month over month. To show the real change month over month, we'll pull up the actual graph of new listings and what's happening. If you see the gray line over here, we're looking at very similar amount of listings when we look at May and into June. You see year over year, they are technically down. But if we're looking at changes in the current market prices, we want to look month over month. So the story of new listings is supply has stayed the same. We're going to have to remember that for a little bit later in the video. But the supply from May to June has stayed the same. If we look at past years, it tends to go down from May to June. You'll see that the most listings tend to be February, March, and April. But then in June and July, they start to go down. That's not the story over here. We're seeing May to June being flat. Very quickly, the same thing with active inventory. Active inventory is slowly piling up. That's not an uncommon trend when it gets to the summer months. So that's not abnormal, I would say. But you're seeing that more inventory stay on the market and it's not selling right away. It's sticking on the market maybe at a higher price or at a price that's no longer realistic. And they're just sitting there. So active inventory is piling up a little bit more. What's key is your actual sold numbers. And we'll put it up over here. Your sold numbers very quickly year to year, we're actually up sold number wise. Last year was a very slow month in June. In June of 2023, we sold 2,833 different homes in Toronto versus last year in June was 2,422 units. So we're up just under 17%. We're up year over year. And again, those are our year over year numbers when it comes to sold numbers. Let's look at the month over month stuff because we're looking at the currently changing market right now. We put up the sold numbers over here. We're looking at our peak solds being in May. If we look at past years, usually our peak solds have been in March for both 2021 and 2022. The peak solds have been in March. Now, with that being said, that wasn't the case for 2023. The peak solds were in May. And that's kind of where I feel like maybe buyer demand has peaked currently. And now we're seeing in June, those new sold numbers are going down. So to look at the graphs we have very quickly, new listings, once again, essentially stay the same month over month. From May to June, they've gone up slightly. So your supply is a little bit higher this month than last month, while in solds, so your demand curve has actually gone down. And it looks like it's likely that the actual properties purchased in May will be the peak of the whole year. The trend that we're watching when it comes to months going forward, and I always recommend let's watch as many months going forward as possible because the more data, the better. If inventory continues to stack up, that's something that could further decline prices when it comes to properties. It's possible. Do we see all the gains that we saw in 2023 go away? That's certainly possible. Is it possible we just see maybe a more of a steadier market? That's possible too. Is it possible we see even more declines? That's possible as well. But this is definitely the start of a trend where your sales are declining. And what essentially at this point will happen is whatever the new listings, where that takes us forward, we'll decide where the market goes. Because if there's a ton more new listings on the market, we're going to see major declines. If new listings kind of slow down and people just don't want to sell their houses at, let's say, a discount or a smaller price, we're not going to see major declines. So that's the trend that we want to look for forward. Sales likely have peaked because of interest rates, but now we want to see what's happening with new listings. That's going to be our key number moving forward. One final thought I want to talk about is interest rates. By no means am I a mortgage broker or I can't advise when it comes to interest rates, but definitely the pullback that I'm seeing on my end, boots on the ground, is the people who are buying right now, they're buying because they have a very good pre-approval locked in with their lender. Let's say they have an interest rate that's much cheaper than what the market currently operates. That's someone who's currently buying right now. And honestly, it makes much more sense for them to buy because they are taking advantage of, let's say, some small price declines, and they're taking advantage of that cheaper interest rate, and they are happy to lock it in. With my clients being first-time buyers, that's what I'm seeing a lot. They're going to live in the property themselves, and they're looking more long-term than a more volatile short-term. So that's what I'm kind of seeing now. But for someone who has not been pre-approved, they haven't locked in their rate, we've seen both fixed rates and variable rates go up over the past several months. And the key thing, I think this video is going to be out when this happens, is we're expecting a 25 basis point hike in the variable interest rate. We'll see if that happens. They'll be posted by now, although they'll be right or wrong. But that interest rate is definitely pushing back buyer appeal. So the number of solds definitely are not, in my opinion, main numbers have peaked when it comes to the amount of sold. So I don't see the demand keep it up. I think demand's probably going to go down as months goes on. And that's why the emphasis really is at this point on what new listings come onto the market. If people have to sell with renewals, or if they can hold on to their properties and keep the properties until the market's a little bit more smoother and more relaxed. Market right now feels funny in the sense that it's something that I'm tracking on a daily basis, and I want to see what happens with time goes here, because I think it can go in multiple different ways. And that's why I think, as someone who's a first-time buyer in the Toronto real estate market, there's a ton of value to watching videos like mine. And maybe it's mine, maybe it's someone else's, but something where you're keeping track of Toronto real estate trends. So when you are ready to make that move, let's say in 6 months, a year, 2 months, whenever it is, you can do so with confidence and do so knowing that you've researched the market, educated the market, and understand what the trends mean. So I hope this helps as a first-time buyer. If you have any questions, again, reach out. I'd be happy to dig into your situation, as everyone's situation is so different. Reach out. I'm happy to help. Have a great day. Take care.